Hey everybody, welcome back to Hoffman Reproductions. I'm Ben Hoffman. Thank you for tuning in with us once again here today. Subject of today's videos. So regardless of whether you are shooting a rifle, Fowler, or musket in the 18th century or today, one of the things you have to have in order to make it operate properly is a good sharp flint. Now during the 18th century, just like today, the colonies imported large numbers of the black English flints, also the French amber flints. These turn up at fort sites, village sites all across the American East, out west even. However, in those mix, when those archaeological finds turn up, occasionally you'll find a handmade or knapped flint. And this makes a lot of sense. Flint knapping had been going on in this country for thousands of years. And if you couldn't get the nice imported English or French flints, you weren't just going to say, well, I guess I can't shoot my gun. That could very well mean your life would be on the line if that were to occur. So individuals would hand knap their own flints, and that's what we're going to show you how to do here today. Now, when I first got involved in living history and muzzleloading, it appealed to me to be able to make a lot of my own gear and equipment. I started off, as far as the shooting goes, I started making my own patching, going to a fabric store and buying the patching. It went a lot further that way, very cheap. Shortly thereafter, began casting all my own ammunition. I have many molds now for all of my various rifles and muskets. Here over the last few years, started making my own powder, as many of you have. I haven't purchased it for a long period of time now. That's working great. Dabbled in making my own percussion caps. That works pretty good for a couple of the percussion guns I have. But one thing I always wanted to do and sort of never had the know-how to try it was to make my own rifle and musket flints until here recently. I don't really remember what got me reinvigorated. I tried years ago. Didn't work very well. Tried it again here recently and had some good success with it. So obviously the first thing you're going to need to do is get a hold of some flint nodules, or spalls they're called. These are the bigger sections of flint. Around here in Ohio, we have two types. There's a black type of flint that's called black hand flint, and then also this multicolored stuff called Coshocton flint. Both work phenomenally well for rifle and musket flints. The black flint I've found is a little easier to knap. The other stuff's a little more difficult. It's kind of a marbled flint. However, it's all over the creek banks around here. I found the bank of the river along a creek where I fish, just literally a mile from where we're standing. That whole wall was nothing but hunks of flint. So there were pieces the size of footballs. So I brought several of those home, along with just the stuff I see on the creek banks around here. So there's a good supply. But check your local area. Chances are there is some type of usable flint in your. So next we're going to hop on over to the shop, and I'm going to show you my method to be able to produce some of your very own usable rifle and musket flints. Stay tuned, that's next. Okay, so we'll cover the tools real quick. First we have a face shield that I use when busting the flint down. We have a heavy leather glove that I put on while I'm holding this. These are my knappers. They're made of steel and iron. I've been told that's not the best choice. Apparently copper or brass or antler chunks, the crown portion down near the head of the deer, those are best. Steel and iron, I guess, tend to release the energy too quickly and can make the flint tend to want to just bust into pieces rather than flake, but that's what I have. This is just a section of an old cold chisel with a mushroomed head that I use for striking down for smaller pieces. And then this bigger, heavier one, this is an old window weight that I use. With a small hammer for chipping. And then this is for the final shaping of the flint. This is nothing more than a chunk of wood with a broken file driven down in. And if you can see that, I've cut that or ground it kind of into the shape of a chisel, which will get mounted in the vise. So very first thing we'll do is see if we can get a flake to come off of this flint, and we'll show you the next step. Okay, so I'm going to attempt, and if my voice sounds muffled, it's because I have my face shield on. I'm going to attempt to get what's called a flake off of this chunk of flint. A flake is then when a thinner section of flint that we can take and shape into our gun flint. But to do it, you need to look for an edge somewhere that has a relatively sharp edge, or as close as you can get it. You're going to strike the very edge of it, and hopefully you'll bust a chunk off that then can be busted into a flint. You're going to get a lot of waste, but I really don't care because this rock is just rock. It's free, so whatever it takes. So holding it in my hand, I'm going to strike at a bit of an angle and see if I can get a chunk off of that. Okay, I did get a really small one. Now that would be okay for use for a really small rifle flint. I almost got one there. There might be one hiding in there. Possible. Keep going here. You can gently tap the edge to kind of clean it up. There's one. Those are junk. So I get a few usable pieces out of that last one. I'm going to switch over to the smaller black piece and try it. There's a nice one. We'll see if we can nap that down and some of these others and turn them into gun flints now. So these are all of my flakes, knocked off of heavier sections that are thinned down that could potentially turn into gun flints with just a small amount of work doing it every now and then to kind of get the feel of it. I've probably got, I don't know, 80 to 100 pieces in here, and I have three sizes that I typically get when I'm making them: a small rifle size, a large rifle size, and then a musket or fowling piece size. And in those several categories with just a little bit of work, I've got maybe 15 or 20 of each one of those. So yeah, the need to buy flints is quickly fading. These work very well. So the next step that I'm going to show you, and even though we've selected some flakes, again, I'm not an expert, so it's not a guarantee these are going to come out correctly. They could break or not work out, but we have a lot, so we'll just discard them if that happens. I've got the chisel section in the stump mounted in a vise. I have my small hammer, and this is just going to allow us to refine the shape of the gun flint. So we're going to just hang it on over the edge, give it a little smack down. You see that busted that off straight. And you can nap on it a little bit to clean it up, but you have to look and see what the best section for the type of flint you're going for is going to be and get rid of all the excess. Obviously you want the tapered bevel facing out that way, so I want to try and get rid of that right there. Okay, looking good. Now I just want to clean this front edge up a little bit, and this is going to be our leading edge that will strike our frizzen. Little guy hanging on right there. And I could refine that more. If I took that corner off, it would be more symmetrical, but it could break it too, and that'll work just fine. We have a nice thin sharp edge, and you can clean them up napping them on this little cutter here as much as you want, but getting them close, they work plenty good. So that's a good 3/4 size. That's acceptable for a rifle size. So there's one. One's a little larger. This would be a good large rifle or Fowler size. You can see the taper there. Thicker in the back, tapers out to the front. And one reason I kind of prefer these to a degree over the handmade English flints. The handmade English flints, not that there's anything necessarily wrong with them, but they tend to be cut with like a chisel profile. In other words, they're very thick here, and then they have one beveled edge on them. And I've found that after initially getting the first, 20 or so shots, they tend to kind of start chewing up. And once you get into that heavy section, they stop sparking well. With this type of flaking, the cutting edge, if you are, scraping edge, sparking edge, is much thinner, and they do seem to last and spark better. So anyway, so we're essentially just squaring this guy up. Okay, we got our back nice and straight. Come out here on the edge, take a little bit off the edge. This piece has a little bit of like a limestone in it, but it still sparks pretty good. I tested it out earlier. And again, looks are secondary. These aren't going to be the most beautiful flints in the world, but they spark with the best of them, at least in my experience. So there's one. That's a good large rifle or Fowler size. There's another one. Alright, this is a larger size one here. We'll try doing one more before we go. See if we can get a musket size flint. Again, take your time. Look it all over. See where the best place to get the flint's going to be out of. I'm not going to get a musket size. That one broke off a little shorter than I was hoping for, but we'll see if we can get perhaps a large rifle size out of it. Lost a bit of my tip. That one might work, but it's a little thick. I'll throw it back in my shards jar or container here for another day. See if I can get one more good one for you. So again, all you're doing at this stage is inspecting the flint, seeing where the sharpest portion of the bevel will be, and then you're sticking it with the edge just over the file, and you're refining your shape. Just taking off little bits of flint till you get your edges squared up, and you get it refined really to the degree you're happy with. They don't have to be perfect in order to work, as I keep saying. Alright. Not totally perfect. I might clean that up a little bit, but it'll work. So I just wanted to show you the fruits of my labor here. These are large rifle size. I probably got 25 or so of them in there. These are the musket size. I've got 4 in there. These are the small rifle size. I've got quite a pile in there. There's probably 30 or 40. So fruits of the labor from very, very little work. Okay, so we have one of our homemade flints in here. This one I've actually got about 20 rounds through it already. Sparked good. Every shot went off, no problem. So go ahead and demonstrate some of the spark here. And I'm going to kill the lights so you can get the full effect. Okay, so we did 3, and no, they're not going to win any beauty awards, but they do work, and they work pretty good. We've got one that's Fowler musket size here. This one's a small rifle, and then this one would work for a large rifle, but they have a heavy back on them, and then a thin edge out on the end that you could nap down and sharpen as you use it. So that's it, pretty basic. If anybody has any questions or comments, please just let me know. If you need me to clarify anything, I certainly can. And I hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see you all next time.